We welcome you back into the Alex Strouf Show here, presented by Cream City Central. And we go to the guest line now as we bring in Zachary Jacobson of 24/7 Sports, as well as PackerReport.com. Zach, how are you, my friend? How is everything?
I'm good, Alex. How are you guys doing over there?
We're living the dream, man. We're trying to stay safe and be good, obviously, with everything going on. But we appreciate you taking a few minutes, man. So I gotta dive into something unpackers related, just you related, strictly right away. What the
Okay.
hell's going on with your Twitter, Zach?
Funny story about my Twitter. I've been suspended. I can't even. I can't count on two hands actually how many times I've been suspended. I'm in double digits now. So I'm pushing for I think 11 or 12 at this point.
So what'd you do?
Well, the first suspension, it's good. I'm glad you're giving me an outlet for this.
Yes,
I can
please.
actually
I,
I
I I
can
need
clear
to
the
hear
air.
this. Yeah.
The first one, apparently it was for harmful conduct. They never told me what I did wrong. They never gave me
Okay.
any evidence or any clarity, nothing. I didn't get anything. Um, I emailed them, sent appeal after appeal, nothing.
Oh no, we're losing Zach a bit. Appeal after appeal. We lost him. Hold on a minute. We'll wait for him. Zach Jacobson. This is the beauty of liveness. As we've got some technical difficulties, it seems, with Zach Jacobson. So we'll get to him as he explains his Twitter fiasco. So Zach Jacobson, for those of you unfamiliar, great Packers reporter, one of the greats in Packers Twitter, has all of a sudden disappeared. And now he's disappeared from him. When he talks about Twitter, they just don't want him to talk about it, apparently. So they just kicked him out of the stream. We'll try to get Zach back here in the next few minutes as he was explaining his Twitter fiasco that he's got going on. So let's gear. I guess I don't know, man. So I want to dive into my mentions then, because Jacob Westendorf also writes for Packer Report, and he just said this. He said he smells, and that's why Twitter got rid of him. But now StreamYard has decided to get rid of him. So we just can't win with Zach. We can't get a hold of him. Kyle, let's take a timeout while we try to figure out Zach here, real quick. We'll be right back here on the Alex Strouf Show. We'll take two. Let's try that again. Zach Jacobson, he's here. Twitter's watching you. I want you to continue your appeal story, but if we lose you again, I'm never asking you about Twitter again. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's probably best we just never talk about Twitter because
Yeah,
they have. I think they have my house bugged. I think that's what it is.
yeah, it must be. So, are you going to be back on Twitter, because you're one of my favorite followers on Packers Twitter, and now I've lost your content?
I appreciate that very much. I'm gonna be. I'll be back eventually. I'm just kind of like, I gotta kind of just lay low for now and let the fuzz kind of get off my tail a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah. Apparently, I like your criminal rendition of that, Zach. But let's just dive into some Packers talk and get off Twitter's tail, because apparently they don't want us doing that. Let's start with a piece you wrote last month, Zach, about Rashawn Gary's expanded role in this Mike Pettin defense. And we'll dive into Mike Pettin and the defense a little bit more here in a second. But Rashawn Gary, last year's first round pick, what do you think it will look like in year two for Rashawn?
Well, they did talk a lot. Mike Pettin, Brian Gutekunst, they all talked about how they want to see him playing kind of like a similar role to what Zadarius Smith played last year in his first year with the Packers. That kind of role where he swaps inside, he starts playing that kind of rover position where he bounces inside, he's playing on the edge, and offensive lines kind of really don't know what to expect from him, and that just makes him a lot harder to game plan for. So when you get that same kind of versatility from a guy you drafted 12th overall in 2019 and who a lot of fans are kind of on the fence with, he's a really polarizing player who, a lot of guys are, it's their highest draft pick since 2009. They want more production out of him, which, he's playing behind two really good edge rushers. So he's in a great position to kind of learn behind those guys. So you don't really need him to produce right now. But either way, you still kind of want to see him produce in a sense. So getting him in a spot where he's in that Zadarius Smith role, where he's able to swap inside and he's able to play on the edge. He's able to stick his fingers in the dirt and he's able to stand up on the edge. He's able to bounce inside. He's able to do multiple things. That's the best way to do it. Just get him involved. And with Kyler Fackrell now in New York with the Giants, that opens up at least over 200 more snaps for him as that third edge rusher.
Yeah, and you bring up the linebacking group, and obviously Fackrell's gone, and as Blake Martinez, Christian Kirksey comes in. We heard from him last week for the first time. This defense should we be more excited than last year? Equally excited, less excited than we were last year going in with this defense in particular, Zach?
It's really tough to gauge. Packers fans probably, I would understand if they would want to be optimistic, but the football fan in me wants to say they probably take a step back just because that front seven is still kind of doesn't really have much of a foundation right now. I mean, you
Yeah.
saw what happened in the NFC Championship in Santa Clara. They didn't really make much of an effort to improve that run defense. After seeing what Raheem Mostert did, they didn't beef up the defensive line. They added Christian Kirksey. I mean, yeah, he has the familiarity with Mike Pettin from their Cleveland days, but that's still a guy who has to come in. He has to learn. It's not the same system. It's a familiar system. It's not the same thing. He has to learn a somewhat new system. Blake Martinez is a familiar face. He leaves to New York. And, I mean, it's just there's not much continuity there.
Yeah.
I'm not really a big fan of what they did with that front seven this offseason.
Well, you lead me in right next to my next question. I'll literally read it for you word for word. It doesn't seem they did much in the offseason for Mike Pettin's front seven. What can we expect after watching Raheem Mostert run 7 miles on them in the NFC Championship game? So you literally answered that for me, but I'm going to throw it at you again. I mean, like you said, not much improvement. So can we even expect a 13-3 season? Is that even a realistic thought with not much improvement defensively after we saw what San Francisco did to them not once but twice, hanging 37 on them?
Well, the good thing is, while there may not be a lot of continuity there,
Yeah,
there are still some of those same pieces in place, like Za'Darius, Preston, Rashawn Gary's going to take, hopefully that jump in year 2 with that expanded role. Kenny Clark is still a monster. I think we've seen about as much as we can from Dean Lowry. He's going into his 5th year. We pretty much know what he is at this point. Montravius Adams, I don't know what the deal is with him after his arrest recently. I don't know what's going on with that defensive line right now, but truthfully, I can't put a lot of faith in this defensive front right now. It's just pretty much echoing my sentiments a few moments ago. That's really probably the rockiest position on this roster right now, which really a couple of years ago, I mean, when Mike Daniels was there and they had kind of like that big defensive front, they had some of those guys in there that just really solidified that interior right there. And it's a shell. I don't know how that happened, but now it's just, I can't put a lot of stock in that group right now. And I hope I'm wrong, of course, but
I also hope you're wrong, but we're trying to be as realistic as we can. This is Zach Jacobson, 24/7 Sports and PackerReport.com. I'd plug his Twitter, but that doesn't exist right now. Zach, I have to keep giving you crap for it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I deserve it.
But look, Zach, so Mike Daniels is a name you brought up. It's a guy that has talked about, he wants to come back to Green Bay potentially. There's potential rumors of maybe they will bring him in, obviously, with the lack of moves they made for that front seven. Is that a move you see, A, likely, and B, one that you'd appreciate and give the thumbs up to?
I think out of all of the rumored moves that fans wanted to see the Packers make this offseason, from adding a receiver, from adding a tight end, from doing whatever, I think adding Mike Daniels is like the most realistic and it makes the most sense. Going off of everything I just said about their defensive line and the familiarity he has with the Packers, and I believe he played 1 year with Mike Pettin in 2018, right before they released him. I think that was his last year with the Packers.
I think that sounds right.
Yeah. So he has that 1 year with Pettin under his belt. I mean, and it makes the most sense. He plays a year or two with the Packers on a short deal, and he rides off into the sunset, finishes off his career. And, assuming he's healthy, of course. And that just seems like a realistic, a sensible, and a financially plausible deal to do. I mean, the Packers don't really lose much in that type of deal,
No, absolutely. And you bring up the financial side, which is the next thing I got to bring up. 33 either free agents or restricted free agents after the 2020 season. I'll jump into a few of the names. for you right away. Kevin King is one I want to hear on your. Obviously, he just led the team in interceptions. Where do we think happens with him across from Jair? Obviously, a lot of hope going into 2020, but a contract year for King.
If he puts together a year like he did last season, I think he's definitely one of their priority re-signs. I was actually talking to somebody about this recently. He hasn't really been the shining epitome of consistency in his career. Up until last season, he's kind of really just been, a little rocky. He hasn't really been this guy that you think you look at and you go, oh, okay, I got to avoid that side of the field. I don't want to throw in that guy's direction. But last year, he had a lot of interceptions in the red zone. He had a couple in the end zone, especially. He became the best man cornerback on their team. And if he can string together a second consecutive season where he is shining and he is playing as well as he did, then I think that's a guy you need to retain. And you can form, who knows what it looks like in a year or in 2 years. That could be the NFL's, best 1-2 cornerback tandem. We don't know what it's going to look like down the road. I mean, I saw this morning, I think it was Doug Farrar, Bleacher Report. He said Jair Alexander is one of the NFL's best zone cornerbacks. I mean, you put Alexander, one of the NFL's best zone corners, and Kevin King, who could end up being one of the NFL's top man corners. I mean, that's a dangerous tandem. You put those duos on either side of the field, that's going to be dangerous. So I think you got to lock those guys up.
Well said. I agree with you there. Now, the other side of the ball, the offensive line, David Bakhtiari, Corey Linsley, and Lane Taylor, all in contract years. You can't sign all three of them. Can you sign? Is one the max you can sign of those three?
I think you're probably looking at one being the max.
I think so too.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty obvious which one. I think we're both thinking the same thing here.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, Bakhtiari is the guy you got to go after, assuming he has at least a solid season as he has the last 8. So, I mean, it's a complicated, obviously, scenario with all these contracts. Last contract involved question, and really, I want to get your scope of the whole running back room. They bring in A.J. Dillon, Williams, and Jones, both in contract years. What's this running back room going to look like, in 2020 and then post in your prediction or your mind?
It's really interesting because they bring in A.J. Dillon, and we don't really know what the outlook is for him right now. We don't know if he's going to be their workhorse for the future, or if he's going to be this the other half of this future tandem with Aaron Jones, or if if he's the guy going forward, or if they see Aaron Jones as more in a receiver role going forward and fluctuating as a running back here and there. I mean, realistically, you kind of want Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon, because that's a dangerous, kind of group right there. AJ, that's you want that, but financially you need to be able to make it happen. And running backs, I know that's a big topic of discussion all over Twitter, social media. Everyone's like, don't pay running backs, don't do this, don't do that. But I mean, Aaron Jones, what he showed last year, it's kind of the same thing with Kevin King. If he could string together a second consecutive season where he is just dominating, he leads the league in touchdowns, and he is just racking up yardage, and he is one of the best players offensively for the Packers, then you kind of have no choice but to lock him up. Now, A.J. Dillon in this run-heavy offense, he's going to have so many more opportunities if they are transitioning into this run-heavy offense. We don't really know what Matt LaFleur's plans are, of course. But when everyone's talking about the wide receivers, they're kind of forgetting about Aaron Jones. He's going to be seeing more reps at wide receivers. So that means less opportunities as a runner, more opportunities for A.J. Dillon. And, this offense is just going to look really different these next couple of years, whether it's with Aaron Jones or with A.J. Dillon as the workhorse in the backfield. We have no idea, but we're going to find out a lot these next few months.
What is Dalvin Cook's contract holdout? How does that affect Aaron Jones going forward? Do you think that does anything? The type of money he gets, what do you think that does for Aaron Jones being in a similar situation, a year from now?
That's a good question, because, I don't think Aaron Jones, look, we don't know these guys personally, but
right.
Aaron Jones, he doesn't seem like on the surface he doesn't seem like the type of player to hold out for bigger money, of
Right.
course. He's out here Zoom calling with fans and stuff and doing all this nice stuff. But when it comes to money, business is business. They let their agents do the talking. Their agents handle all of that nonsense. Look, he may be out of the Packers price range at some point.
I think so.
And especially if what I'm saying comes to fruition and if he strings together that second year where he leads the league in touchdowns and he is just absolutely tearing it up and he sets the league on notice, then we're not looking at Aaron Jones as a Packer anymore.
I think you're in the right ballpark. Zach, 1 minute we've got before we got to get to a break. Can you plug everything you got going on, where we can find you? Because usually I just plug the Twitter and call it a day, but I can't do that with you. So tell us what you got going on, where we can find your work.
I'm kind of going rogue right now, so nobody can find me anywhere. I'll be back on Twitter eventually. So just kind of keep an eye out for that. Eventually you'll see me asking people to follow me at some point, and you'll see me begging for follows like a panhandler. Yeah, you can find me right now though at PackerReport.com. I'm still working. I'm still covering the Packers. I'm still doing that. Nothing has changed on that end. So that is where you can find me for now.
And
Eventually
Kyle,
I'll be back on Twitter.
Producer Kyle Quick says boneless wings take. Are you a boneless wings
Oh,
guy?
boneless wings take. Oh, well, boneless wings are superior. I mean, that's come on.
Zach, with all due respect, I think you're an idiot, and I need you to get off my show. Thanks so much for stopping by, my friend. Really appreciate the time.
All right. Hey, thank you guys for having me.
Of course, man. We'll have you back. We'll do it again soon. That's Zach Jacobson of 24/7 Sports and PackerReport.com. We're going to take a timeout. On the other side, we've got Matt Freilich of PackersWorldwide.com and the Pack a Day podcast right here on the Alex Strouf Show, presented by Cream City Central.